I'm ready. Everybody else is ready. This meeting to order. And before we get into there are some concerns and remembrances that I would like to bring up to the group. I think we all know that the anniversary of 9/11 is coming up this Saturday, I believe. And I think most of us, well, I would say all of us, remember that day and the lives that were lost. And I would also like to remember Mr. Ardeen Hunt and Miss Wendy Britt. I had the privilege of working with Mr. Ardeen, and he was a student's teacher, principal. He was a man's man, and I just thought the world of Mr. Ardeen. If you would just join with me a minute, please. Gracious God, we thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to serve the schools and the children of the public schools of Robeson County, and we just thank you for the lives of these two servants who we lost. And Father, as we reflect upon the loss of life, 9/11, that memory still lingers, and it's even painful to reflect on. But Lord, we just pray that we would be able to go forth and to build upon the legacy that each of those folks left. Be with us now as we consider these policies and all that are here. Bless each one. And we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to review the policies and the 6,000 correlation tables. It's quite lengthy and comprehensive, which is a good thing in that it covers the bases very thoroughly, I think. I would dare say that the revisions that we would decide are necessary would be relatively minor. And for the sake of time, of course, we will stick to the policies that have been proposed for revisions. And that begins with 6,000. As I recall, it is really brief, and it's really, I think, an affirmation specifically for the Leandro standard, and that is to receive a sound basic education, that every student has a right to expect and to receive a sound basic education. And if you note there, there's a sentence read to that effect. There is another sentence that has been stricken on that. I think you can read that for yourself. And unless there are any questions or comments, are there? That particular section?
Are you including, you said the entire 6,000?
I'm sorry?
Are you saying the entire 6,000? Or just 6,000?
Just 6,000, yeah. Okay, thank you. A second, all in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. Okay. We move on to 6120. And I was especially glad, along with me, a new section B has been created to address the school system mental health plan. And Dr. Williamson, my understanding, and I am reading what it says here in the lavender print, this is a new addition to our school policy. And And it looks like work will be beginning
We
on
have,
this.
let me ask Dr. Carr to share that with you. In fact, they've completed the mental health plan.
The school mental health plan, the board approved it in May, and the suicide risk protocol, and it was just submitted to the state for that September 15th deadline that they mentioned in here. So we've submitted our first school mental health plan for the district last week. So it's all in place and official and ready to go.
I remember that plan, and I was so impressed at how comprehensive that is. And I commend the staff for all the work that's gone into that, which has obviously been a lot.
Move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, second. All in favor? All right, moving on to 6125. I had a question, and for me, I don't know about y'all, some of this is this light orange, in some places a little difficult to read. But the first paragraph that says I'm looking at the third line, in limited circumstances, a student may be authorized to self-administer medications. Now that, to me, that's very broad, limited circumstances. And I may have missed it. This was very complicated. There was a lot of verbiage along with this. But I guess my question is, how would limited circumstances be addressed or defined? Obviously, you think about the I'm trying to think of the name of it, the injection that some students have a syringe.
EpiPen?
Yeah, EpiPen, thank you. The EpiPen. Now, I'll just say, is it limited to that, or are there other circumstances?
Mr. Gentry, if you will look at on page 4-7, these students self-administering medications, it walks through the examples there that we would allow students to administer medication.
Okay,
And I think they're very specific. And continues on page 5 or 7, it outlines diabetes, asthma,
allergy,
allergies.
anaphylactic, yeah. Okay,
Any other questions?
all right, I'm satisfied. All right, second. Aye. All right. 6125. Being any other questions on 6125? Again, I think I did note there on page 6 or 7, the board does not assume any responsibility for the administration of medication to a student by the student's parent, or any other person.
Is that the same one we just approved?
Yeah, but I do have a question about that.
Yeah, I said, did you have a question? You said no. So you do have a question about it?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. I had marked that, just turning over that, I had marked that. And I guess this is a notation that the board does not have any responsibility for medication by the student, that's given to the student by the parent or any other person. And the policy explains that there must be, the proper protocol and paperwork filled out. All right, we'll move on.
$40.
6140. Are there any comments, questions on 6140? I found that to be fairly straightforward myself.
Mr. Gentry,
Yes,
I have a question, not about the content, but the page numbers, because there are 10 pages to that, correct?
yes,
But if you look at, or at least the page numbers that I have, it says like page 1 of 2, then page 2 of 2, page 3 of 2, but it should be of 10, right? I'm just looking at page numbers. I was fine with the content as well, but
Ms. D, or Ms. Grissett, are you looking at the ones that were available online, or do you have a hard copy?
I printed the hard copy that was sent by email. Is it changed on your end?
Yes, I've got 10 pages.
Right.
That's 10.
Okay. I have 10 pages, but like mine says page, the first one says page 1 of 2, then page 2 of 2, then 3 of 2, 4 of 2. Everything says 2 instead of 10 on mine, but okay.
Okay,
Everybody's good?
mine,
Yeah.
I said it's 1 of 10, and 2 of 10.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Second it. All right, moving on to 6200. School nutrition.
Did we vote on that? I don't think we voted.
All, okay, we did. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, no. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
I did have one question about 6140. I apologize
Okay,
reading it. And I'm trying to find the other page I was looking at. But I was sitting there, one part it said, you know, anything that the school day is anything from midnight to 30 minutes after the final bell rings. And then it said that, you know, anything during the school day's got to meet smart stacks and everything else. But then it said after that, it can be whatever. But then on page 4 of 10, talks about events after school hours held on school premises. We still must have at least one healthy beverage option. And that was after like sporting events or PTOs or whatever, and 2 healthy food options that comply. I mean, to me, that was saying 2 different things, and I'm trying to find the first one. And I can't find it right now.
was that, Jason, was that on 2 of 10, did you say?
It's on 4 of 10, events after school hours are held. It said number 4, but I'm trying to find the other one that it was saying it the first one. I'm trying to find it. God, man. Where is it at? But it's the one that were outlined. I don't think it was on this policy, but it was on the. But it talked about hold on, organization. Bobby, you know what I'm talking about? Where it talks about
Well, I read number 4 on page 4 of 10. I know that's where
Yeah.
it talks about your healthy beverage and
Yeah.
your 2 food items.
Yeah, but that's talking about after school hours. It's on page hold on. Food sold after the school. Okay, it says on page 2 of 4 on policy 6230. It says food sold after the school day are not subject to the smart snack standards. But it says, but are subject to any rules established pursuant to 6140. So those right there, it's saying is are we putting that in that says we got to offer all that stuff after school?
Yes, anything in yellow highlighted, in yellow is a policy or what we have said is going to be part of our district.
Because that reason I'm saying that goes against the other one, what the state says we had to.
That would be correct.
So do we need to pull those 2 policies, or what do we need to do with them?
It's fine, because, all it's saying, make sure you got water and something from that snack, and we do that anyway.
'Cause we know we're gonna comply with the state regardless.
Yes. So Jason, what I read is in the, number 4, where it talks about events after, and I started thinking about your ball games, y'all offer water for sale, correct?
We offer water, but now we might not offer pretzels, fruit, soup, nuts,
But do
anything
you
from the
offer
smart standards.
popcorn?
Not all the time. Very few times, to be honest. The reason I was asking, can we say may provide or should provide? Because when you put the word must in there, There's no wiggle room.
Candy bars have nuts in them.
Yeah.
All right now.
Just popcorn and keep moving.
Yeah. I think if you do your popcorn, Jason, you're good. Don't you have bag popcorn that they can buy, like?
But it says two. But it says two.
Well, those were examples though.
Yeah,
That
but it says and must provide two healthy food options that complies.
Healthy food.
Standards.
But it says that's just an example.
Yeah, popcorn is just an example, but I'm saying we don't have.
Well, I guess the ETC, in other words, that's not all inclusive. That's not limited to those.
But just intentionally order the bag, pretzels or whatever that you can meet that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We just need to make sure because
That's right.
that's something that's new, and I don't want somebody to be at a ball game or a PTO and they come back and say, well, you violated this policy for lack of not knowing what was in here. Is what I'm saying.
Let's get the prepackaged, whatever, peanuts.
Keep on going.
Yeah.
Don't go.
All right.
All right. So we'll move on then to 6230.
60-30.
60.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. Let's go back. We got to prove.
200.
100.
200.
6,200.
All right, we're considering 6,200. Is there a motion that we accept 6,200?
Questions or concerns?
It just changed the name to school nutrition.
Yeah.
I move approval, Mr. Chairman.
All right. I'll second. All in favor, say aye. Okay. So then that brings us to 6230, if I am correct.
6210. Revised.
Okay. I thought we were approving it in total.
Any questions or concerns? You got it, Mr. Chairman?
Okay, 6210. Any questions or concerns?
Approval.
All right. I second. All in favor, say aye. 6220. I have a question that addresses, I'm looking at one on the under letter A. School officials may not discriminate based on, and it gives the list, race, sex, color, national origin. And I guess I'm not questioning the fact that that's there. I'm concerned that it had to be in there. You see what I'm saying? Based on school officials also prohibited retaliating against an individual for prior civil rights activity. And I'm trying to draw the context myself. Maybe I'm not with it, but why that has to be there. I'm assuming that it has to do with subsidized meals and the applications from students and parents for subsidized.
When it comes to general statutes, the only way that you're gonna comprehend how they derive with it is to go back and look at the foot, that law, that's that.
Yeah.
Other than that, we just accept what they say and move on. We don't know what the arguments were,
Right.
legislation.
But my concern is that there's been some cases of this where it wouldn't be in here.
If it is, the footnotes in that statute will show it to you. When they were doing the arguments for to make it,
Right.
it would be within the compulsion of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, that says we've got to do some cleaning up here in the way that we address
It's
it.
mean that they just
In general.
revising it to make certain everything is covered, that's all. They call them amendments. Revisions. Part of what it is for now.
It's really telling us we have to provide choices so that we don't discriminate. For instance, we can't only have pork for today. We've got to have some other meats because that might discriminate against someone's religion or something. That's as an example. So it's really saying we got to provide choices so that we don't.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions?
Hang on.
Okay.
In such a hurry, Brenda.
No, I just said it because you said you had a question, so.
Okay. Are there any other questions about 6220?
B, we needed to put, I mean, even though I know now we don't have to worry about the meal charges and everything, but if we, for some reason, do not get the, I forgot what the grant is called, where we, everybody gets free lunch, right? Are we gonna put a dollar amount in 6220B on page 3 or 4?
Oh, yeah.
At this time, I don't see how we can.
Okay.
Yeah, I had question marks in those blanks myself.
And the only thing that's where if a kid owes money and it gets to a certain amount, then they don't get to eat lunch. They get an alternate lunch at no charge until they bring it up. Is all the thing that policy was talking about. Because I know in the past, before everybody got free reduced lunch, everybody got free lunch. We'd have people with 3, 4. I mean, Hugh can tell you. I don't know what the largest one was. Hugh, what, $500-$600 they owed?
Somewhere along there.
Everybody frees this time, don't they?
Yeah, and we're hoping to be able to renew as a CEP district. So that's why I don't see how we can pull a dollar amount.
Will that be forthcoming at some point?
If we don't continue to, everybody eats free CEP. And we will. Because I don't think you can set that not knowing what the meal prices will actually be, because then that would determine,
How much they owe you?
that's correct.
I got you.
And I made a notation to that effect about everybody eating free because I know even back when I was around, that was out there about getting to the point where no student had to pay for their meals. Obviously, we're not there yet. Anyway. All right. Any further questions on 6220? Hearing none, hear a motion.
Chairman.
And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. All right, moving on to 6225. Any questions or concerns there? I need a definition, I didn't see one, for community eligibility. Does that touch back on what I just brought up? What is community eligibility?
That is our current, child nutrition program we're in, where we apply to the federal government. It covers the cost for all of our children in the district. And so when they make reference to community eligibility, there's a program set up through DSS where they identify children who receive services through them. And so that would be a direct certified student who gets free and reduced, who would qualify for one of those two. So we're not doing the lunch applications like we used to. Everything's based upon the needs in the community.
Dr. Carl, that links itself to Title I, correct?
Right.
What way?
So that's how we also get our percentages for Title I. So if a school's like at 60% free and reduced, it's based on the CEP. So if the community eligibility for the prospect, for example, is 60%, that means they get 60% based on that budget.
So it's based on like average family incomes within the attendance district?
Based on everything that CEP reports, so whoever gets direct services from the free and reduced and all that, that goes in and feeds into Title I to show that 60% of the students would qualify for free and reduced, and therefore all of those students, like for example, if there's 800 students at a school, 60% of those, we multiply that amount per child, and that's how much funding they get for that school. So everything relates back to that CEP report right now.
Gotcha.
And I have a question. This is for Dr. Williamson. and I don't know how to, I don't even know how to ask this question, Dr. Wilson. I actually called Velvet with DSS. Our situation is a little different at St. Paul's High School. Actually, if you go back and look at the numbers, and Bobby's seen them, we're actually considered one of the most non-impoverished schools in the county, which we know is not true. I mean, the elementary school is at 90-some%, the middle school is at 90-some%, but we're at, what was it, Bobby? 60?
Right.
Like 60. But the reason is a lot of our kids are in families that are not legal. So therefore they're not eligible for services. So they cannot get, I mean, if you're not legal, you can't get food stamps. So that goes against our percentages, which goes against our Title I money also. Is there a way to still do maybe free and reduced lunch if people wanted to fill them out or something to get our percentage up, because it affects our money? And honestly, pretty soon we might be into the point where we're a school that has to have help from schools that are 80-90% in order to keep the CEP grant. Is there anything that can be done?
I can tell you what I've done in the past. When that was a problem, then we made sure that those schools did not lose what they normally would get, just provided from a different. So if we ever get to that point, that would be the option, Robert, that we would look at. About that dollar amount. I'm not saying we're getting ready to do that. When we
I'll
get-
get. Okay, that's fine.
Okay. All right, any further questions, comments on, section 2062-25? Hearing none. Motion has been made for approval. Second, all in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. Okay. Moving on to 6230, there's a lot of information here about, nutrition and food services. I know from personal experience that this competitive foods situation can get tricky. And in reading this information, it's not always done through an administrative decision within the school, i.e. the principal. Sometimes it happens in the back door through other means. And I think everyone understands what I'm talking about with that. I think something is consumed within the classroom that's taboo in terms of food services. In other words, a competitive food. And the rule was stated over and over again, those competitive foods are not to be offered or consumed essentially before the last lunch hour, in a nutshell.
Which one you at, Mr. Chairman?
I'm on right now I'm on page 1 of 4 under 6230. I'm just saying that as a comment. I'm not trying to edit anything. And I will say that I know, again, from personal experience, we had to be careful with the vendors. No other reason to make sure, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, what the vendors offer had to be in compliance with the Smart Foods agenda. Is that not correct?
Yeah.
So some of the things that the vendors offer are not. I can tell you right now, they're not in compliance with Smart Foods, based on what I understand the definition of Smart Foods is. And again, I'm just making an observation, and it addresses all that in this on page 2 of 2. Fundraising activity, that's another thing that can interfere with the compliance of the competitive foods rule.
6,300 right here, at the beginning of the book.
Yeah. But it's very, I think it's very thorough. Are there any questions on 6230?
have 6230. 6200, not 6230.
I'm sorry?
I don't have 63, I have 6330. I'm sorry, 6300.
Okay. We're on 6230.
That's not in my book.
It's not in your book?
Not indeed.
No? 6230, food standards.
Oh, I thought you was operating from the front of the book and then going to the.
Well, I'm referencing the front of the book, but table of contents with an annotated chart there. And again, to me, this is very comprehensive. I did not see any problems with any of this. I think it was thorough and to the point. If there are no questions or comments, do I hear a motion that we accept 6230 as written?
Yeah, I think the policy makes clear, we can't offer, can't do anything that would put us at risk of losing our reimbursement from the
Right.
SDA. And so that's governing, and that's policy, like you said, does an outstanding job of laboring that for us. So
Right.
we control when those sales can happen and not, but spelling it out, how we protect that reimbursement.
Yeah, and again, it's up to the building principal to make sure that happens, because there are all kinds of, for lack of a better term, sneak-ins with this kind of thing. So, here are no other questions, comments. Do I hear a motion that we accept 6230? Okay.
My next one was 6300. The front of the book.
Let me get you another book there.
Make another book.
But I still move approval here, no comments in it.
Let me
Okay.
ask Hugh, and Hugh, those inspections are done, right? Folks from the State Department, they'll come and check if the Coke machine's on or somebody, so they spot check that throughout the year, correct?
Yes, and so do our supervisors, child nutrition supervisors too, when they go out to the schools. They do a random check as well.
To make sure they're not being utilized in the improper time or,
Right.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Because that you can put your accreditation
That's right.
at risk. You're found in violation.
So there is obviously an unannounced check-in. I mean, they're not trying to do somebody in, but at the same time, you want to make sure that they're in compliance with the timing.
Right, and usually when the state comes down and do their inspections, they don't give a list of the schools until the day of, okay? They sit down, do their little formal get-together, then all right, let's go out to St. Paul's High School.
Yeah.
So it's unannounced.
Right. Just your thought, are we pretty much in compliance?
Yeah, I mean, there have been issues in the past, don't get me wrong, but overall,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, because most
I'm
times,
sure there've been exceptions to it at some point.
well, most machines have timers on them anyway. So, but now sometimes the timers do mess up, and you gotta call them and say, hey, listen, this thing came on, they gotta come fix the timer. But,
Yeah.
all the drink machines and the vending machines and all the schools should be on a timer.
Okay, I hadn't thought about that. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, we really have to watch, St. Paul's High School.
Yeah.
I think the one we really have to watch.
I agree. That guy's a trip.
Now, at the elementary school, we do not have a timer on it, but it's nothing that students use. So there's not a timer on our drink machine or snack machine, but it's only for staff use.
Yeah.
and correct me if I'm wrong, they are kept in the teacher's lounge, which are off limits to students.
Yes.
Well, currently, we don't have a teacher's lounge due to space. So it's in a hallway at the end of the building, of my MP building. That might be something we need to discuss.
Whoever feels it can put a timer on it. That's nothing. Why it's in the hallway if you want to.
Is it safe to say that they're all on timers or just certain ones?
Anything that's in the hallway that is accessible to students should be on timers.
Should be. If not, they have been known to, just unplug them
Right.
and
Yeah.
then they plug them back up.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we've got a motion for approval, a second, 6230. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, no. Moving on to 6300. Goals of student transportation services. This, what I'm about to say is addressed in several places, but I wrote something under number one on, one of one under 6300. And I dare say that we do a good job with this. Ensuring that mass transportation, i.e. buses, stay on routes, no picking up students out of district. And I'm open to any comment about that, but I mean, that's a given, that's an obvious statement. But I know from, again, past experience that sometimes otherwise does happen.
Yeah, Bob, we would probably get a lot of requests to take a bus down a private road, which we can't do.
Right.
We can only run buses on state-maintained highways.
Right.
That's right. And we're also getting, a lot of requests to begin to drop children off at businesses.
Right.
And so we're not doing that as well. Our service is school to home and home to school.
Right.
And also daycares, Bob. Mr.
Yeah, daycares, we've gotten a lot of requests for daycare as well.
That's good.
And I like this about regardless of whether the student regularly rides a bus to and from school, they have to take the bus education class. Am I correct in making that statement?
That's correct.
I think, I'll amen that and underline it. Okay, and I'm just noting what's in the lavender print, it's self-explanatory, and I think that reinforces really all of this in total. Okay, any questions, comments on 6305?
Chairman?
Okay, second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, on to 6306, school bus idling. And when I was in charge of buses for several years at my school that I served, and I know that at that time, it did not always happen the way this is prescribed, and that is essentially there's a time limit to how long they can idle. I think it's 15 minutes, no, 5 minutes. It says in that first paragraph. Bus board prohibits the warming up of buses for longer than 5 minutes, except in extraordinary circumstances. And then 6306R goes into detail about idling situations. And the givens that there will be some idling in certain conditions and circumstances, and it lists those A through E. Buses should not park nose to tail. Don't think that's always been the case. The schools where I go now, I don't see any park nose to tail, and there's some obvious reasons for that.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not trying to rush anything, but I thought the purpose of us receiving the material time so we could look at it and see if there was any concerns.
All right, any comments? Okay,
Approve, Mr. Chairman.
all right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on to 6315, drivers.
Mr.
6310.
Okay.
I missed one. I'm sorry, 6310. That's itself, I think, self-explanatory. Superintendent shall establish the transportation services program consistent with board goals.
Yeah, they just added an Oxford comma after policy. That was all.
Okay? Motion approval.
Approval.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Moving on to 6315. Any comments, questions? Hearing none.
I want to add, and it's not probably but at some point, we need to consider a dual employment policy of staff that we employ, that a condition of employment is that they get their bus license and be available to drive when we need them. I'm not saying it at this point. Whenever we hold a board workshop, that is going to be one of the policies that we ask. We're probably one of the few counties that's don't have that policy in place. But it makes it clear, a lot of the non-certified positions, dual employment is a condition for employment, that you must be able to get a bus license and drive a bus for.
How many bus drivers are we short now? Do you know?
I
A
do not.
I
lot.
don't know how many was short. I know most schools are working it out either by running double or triple routes, and then talking with Dr. Guzman now, that number is beginning to decrease. Yeah, but now our bus ridership is down to probably only a third of our students are probably participating in transportation.
But that policy would eliminate a lot of that. We have enough employees to cover our salaries and that. We just don't have that policy clarifies that it's dual employment. So again, let's throw it out now as we talk about drivers. It's something we're going to ask for in the future.
By that time, you have all the dynamics worked out to where you don't have to worry about losing anything.
That's right. That's normally a 75-25 split.
Right.
To keep that 100%. Yes.
Okay. Any further questions on six?
You know, you used to have Colonel Ferguson who did that, remember?
Well, what?
Colonel Ferguson did that. They used to work with you. She had a dual enrollment.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah. Any further questions on 6315 or comments?
Approval, Mr. Chairman.
All right, second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. 6320, use of student transportation services. I thought this was a thorough and comprehensive addressing of that topic as well. I did underscore yellow school buses may be used in instructional programs directly related to the curriculum. I know that's always been a kind of a hot potato when the yellow buses can be used. And from what I know I could not be clear on use, but it seems like there have been more exceptions. Correct me if I'm wrong. The yellow school buses, there are more situations, I'll just put it that way, that have come up where yellow school buses can be used. Dr. Williamson, what is your thought on that?
I think majority of the use is in-county field trips is normally because we don't have enough activity buses to cover that. So I think, correct me if I'm, majority of the use ties it to the instructional part as in-county field trips.
Okay,
And there is an approval process, Mr. Gentry, where it comes through my office to get it signed off on so we can document those miles and things of that. So if a yellow school bus is out, it has been approved prior to them leaving.
Right.
And in most situations, it is to come to the planetarium. On summer school, we used them, for any trip that was taken, during the summer school program.
Okay, and the ones I'm aware of, that's what's been happening. Exactly.
And also for emergencies, in the past, we,
Yeah.
allowed the yellow buses to be used only in emergency.
I don't see what I'm looking for, and it's not a question, but I do know, 2 years ago, community people use our activity bus. And like I said, I don't see it right now, maybe overlooking it. I felt like that needed to be addressed, maybe not today, Mr. Bobby, but at one time, at some point.
And I'm not aware, nothing has come through me so far to request an activity bus. Now, I do know that there have been situations where a student group has contacted the school individually to use a bus. Let's say there was a summer camp at UNCP this summer with our students, but it was not through us. So they contacted the school with a driver and got permission to use the bus that way.
This is a community person, they've already contacted me, and I told them, I told them we were not allowing that, including our building. However, I'm just throwing this out to you right now, just in case, that's all. Because I know we're not gonna start that, a pandemic.
Then keep in mind, our activity bus situation is going to improve as we have 15 activity buses budgeted in ESSA. Bobby, bring us up to speed. Where are we on that?
Dr. Guzman last week was finalizing the numbers and was gonna get that PO over to Erica because it's contract recycled, and so the prices changed somewhat. And I know the last I spoke with him, he was dealing with Erica directly on getting that PO taken care of. So I would say within,
Yeah, as of this past Friday, they were in discussion. He got the quotes in from her, so she was just crossing the Ts on it.
And so, Ms. Vice Chair, in the future, that may be a possibility because we're adding that number to our fleet. So,
and if I'm not mistaken, 3 out of that 15 are gonna be handicap accessible.
Like I said, I only told them in this pandemic, I know we're not, that's all. But I did say, get with the superintendent.
Okay. Any further comments, questions on 6321?
Move approval, Mr. Chairman.
All right, second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 6322, student assignment to buses. And I thought the language is very precise and clear in what's allowed and what is not allowed.
I don't see any concerns, Mr. Chairman.
Beg pardon?
I don't see any concerns.
Okay. You made that form of a motion that we approve?
There's approval, Mr.
All
Chairman.
right.
Second.
Second, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. 6325, I thought that was very plain, the way that was worded. Jason? Yeah, he's laughing.
Well, I've already talked to all the high school principals and asked them if they were happy with the $20 charge since it's in here, and if they wanted to leave it at 20 or up it to 25, and everyone wanted to know if we could up it to 25.
And Jason, help me out with this just to see if my mind's right. Didn't the board meet a few years back and approve a flat rate for everybody so that everybody was on the same page?
Yeah, because at the time, Red Springs was charging like 50, and then somebody else said they could charge like 5. So they come up with 20, just a flat rate, probably about 7 ago.
7.
But like I said, everybody just wanted today if we can bump it up to 25.
So, Jason, have you done an informal poll with the high school principals to arrive at that?
Yes, sir. Done it today. Jamal says he wants to go. He said go to 25. Clyde said 25. Larry Brooks said I'm good with 25. And Prater said he's good with it also, so all of them have said 25 if possible.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we strike through $20 and change that to $25 effective, once in January or August of next year.
Because y'all have already started, selling parking permits, haven't you, Jason?
We haven't, not yet. But like I said, we were starting this week. But like I said, I'm fine with doing it 20 this year. I mean, it is what it is. It didn't go for next year because everything's still got to be approved pending board approval anyway. So, and we've already sent out the papers that have 20 also, though. We do have.
Right, that's what I'm referring to. Then, so we're really saying August of next year, when it kicks in.
That superintendent motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Second, all in favor, say aye. I do have a question about that. I just for my own sake, going forward with this, it is subject to board approval, so we will need, and some of the others where there's a material revision like this, we will need to get approval from the entire board. Is that correct?
I think we need to note it when we present the 6,000 series of that change.
Yes.
We can body separate.
Right, and so what Candace and I are gonna do is the revisions that were suggested in the 5,000.
Yeah.
And whatever revisions are, suggested for the 6,000 for the board packet, we're gonna have a one pager. So that,
Right.
everybody, they've got their books,
Yeah.
so, but also to know what we
Right.
suggested the
Thank you,
changes need
thank
to
you.
be. That'll be
Appreciate
in the
that.
board.
Yes, sir. Okay. No other questions on 6 through 25. I hear motion, we approve. Motion? Second, all in favor say aye. 6330. Insurance for student transportation services.
Thought that was good. I didn't have any questions.
Okay.
Anyone else have?
Okay, any questions or concern? I did underline that in order to be covered by the State Tort Claims Act, and that goes into the way that it's, the pay arrangement, I guess it's self-explanatory. It has to,
Contract.
and that is in fact the current condition? Okay. Okay. All right, motion approved. Second, all in favor say aye. Aye. 6340, transportation service vehicle contracts. I did not have any notations on this section. Thought it was clear and straightforward.
I didn't have any concern.
Questions or concerns on 6340? Hearing none, I hear a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion approved. 6400, goals of the purchasing function. This is very thoroughly, passing against some of it, that light orange, but, again, I thought this was a very, comprehensive treatment of this. Any questions or concerns? Okay. So, 6401, motion for approval. Brenda, I hear that from you. Okay. In favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. 6410, organization of the purchasing function. Again, this I thought was very thorough treatment. It has the conditions, requirements, responsibilities, 1 through 12. That's a separate entity by itself. Motion to approve that. If there are no questions. Second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And that brings to 6420, and it's Dr. Williamson, the only question I had here was, all these blanks to be filled in.
Help us out.
Well, we can just mirror what the state general statute is and leave it at 90,000. I know a lot of other school systems do that.
It's what we were talking about earlier.
Sir?
That's what you were talking about earlier before the meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
I know several other systems, what they put in there was the 90,000 threshold. For anything below that, Dr. Williamson has,
Right.
thing above that would be sealed contract.
That's how we did in the past also.
Hugh, are you saying that every blank should just be 90,000?
Except for down there at the bottom, let's see here. Except for giving the principals the authority. Now, some school systems did 1,000. I saw some of them go as high as 3,500. But then you don't want them to get in too big of a mess doing contracts where they overextend the school.
What is your recommendation, Mr. Superintendent?
1,000.
That we accept the recommendation of the superintendent?
And that's that the principal, has the authority to spend up to 1,000? Is that what?
Third,
The principal has the authority to spend up to 1,000?
we're into a contract, a purchasing contract.
Right.
Gotta keep our audit looking good.
Keep them out of trouble.
That's right.
And then all other blanks, 90,000?
Then the last one be 90,000 PQ.
Yeah, that kind of goes along with the one up above, yeah.
Okay, any further questions, comments on 6420?
Approval, Mr. Chairman.
All right, second, all in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed, no. 6421.
Will we approve? We got us covered on this.
Okay,
Before,
Second, Mr. Chairman.
all right, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. 6425. Continuing contracts. And again, I thought this was very thorough. To my knowledge, it looks like it covered all the bases very well.
I move for approval.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. 6430. The only notation I had again was the blank. And again, was $90,000 work here again, Hugh?
yes, sir.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Recommendation, Mr. Superintendent.
All right, second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. All right, just approve it. Well, I don't want to move too fast, but that 6430 covers a lot of territory. Okay. We did just vote on that, didn't
We did.
we? Okay. All right, moving on to 101 under 6440. First page is stricken, 6442. To me, this, I didn't write anything here, but this is something that we have to be careful with about, in my opinion, using only approved vendors for any merchandisable products. And I think there've been some unauthorized, except one other has at some point in the past. I'm not saying now.
That's correct.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. I'm just saying, I'm just making that as an observation. I don't have a problem with it. I'm glad it's in yellow. Any vendor may be included on the list upon request.
Mr. Tinch, if you look at on the correlation table, the School Board Association, says we may, instead of using the highlighted sentence, it says the superintendent or designee has the discretion to determine which vendors are included on the list, may establish standards for being placed on the list or for remaining on the list.
Yeah,
I like
the
that.
general statement though is always gonna be, because what we're doing now, anybody that requests to be on the vendor list, and we always check the vendors, and if they're not, and then finance is telling them, make that request, correct?
Right, if they've been debarred from either the state or the federal vendor.
Can we add what he just read as an addition? I like that caveat in there. Read that again, Bobby, please.
It's in your correlation table, page 11.
Okay.
It says the superintendent or designee has the discretion to determine which vendors are included on the list and may establish standards for being placed on the list or for remaining on the list.
That's part of it anyway, isn't it?
We're doing that now.
Yes.
The designee is finance here, so we're doing it now because they do monitor any vendor that's been disbarred, can't do business, they monitor that. So that's already in practice.
Right, any new vendor, once they turn in their W-9 form, first thing the ladies do is they pull up state and federal vendor, see who's been debarred, if they've been debarred or not.
Okay, but my question is, I know that's on page 11 there in the chart, but and I know that's going on, but do we need to have that specific language
From my
policy
understanding,
itself?
when we attended our North Carolina School Board Association meetings, it was already incorporated in it.
Okay. All right. On in here, into, brings us to, okay, 6442, we need a vote on that motion.
So, Mrs. Chairman,
All right, second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Purchase of services, 6450.
I'd like to make note in section A and section B to be removed.
Thank you.
Because the board did approve several years ago to mirror the North Carolina General Statute of the purchasing guidelines, 30,000, 9,000 informal. This was something that was done 20 years ago, that saying that in order for us, anything between $250 and $50, we have to get quotes on services. Go past these and you already hit $200, you know?
So this is outdated, in other words.
Very outdated.
And I think in conversation with Miss Erica, this should have been removed years ago.
When we,
This looks like
if we
the
did,
School Board Association wasn't informed to remove it.
so we removed it years ago.
So Q, your recommendation is to take out A and B?
yes, sir.
That relabel, everything, just have A, correct?
We would just have A. The C would not.
That would leave C, right?
C.
Yeah, C will become A.
Becomes A.
Okay. All right, any questions, comments? If not, do I hear a motion?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. 6,500, goals of equipment, materials, and supplies, services. And these are, broad policies, all of which are relevant, of course.
Mr. Chairman, and I do want to put an emphasis on number 3. We've already started the process of moving toward uniformity. Some of our equipment, I will point that out. Point with a lot of our computer hardware, we're all going to make a decision as much as possible for uniformity in that.
Which would inherently include discarding outdated equipment and
That's
and
right.
providing new equipment.
New equipment, but rather than randomly all over the place with 10 different models, we're going to move towards and already started the process of that uniformity, whatever that make and model might be.
And we're also adding maintenance that will be included in that as well. Just to give you an example, Mr. Gentry, we just replaced all vacuum cleaners in the district with one model that everybody has, and it's a backpack type device. So again, when we start looking at what needs to be replaced in maintenance, we're looking at one make, one model, so that every school has the same thing.
That's good.
What about the 360 machines? There's not one assigned to every school. It's one to every so many schools, right?
Right, so with the 360 machines, I think we purchased 5, is that correct, Hugh?
Somewhere along there.
So we
They
have 5.
rotate.
They rotate depending on the need.
But Robert, what we're realizing, the code is that backpack sprayers and that we're using that can do the same thing.
Just as
We're not
the same.
really gaining
That's right.
anything out of 360.
Right, so in lieu of the 360 machine, we have instructed schools, if there's an exposure or positive case in a room, we're double spraying that room, because the solution in it is just as effective as the solution we were using in our 360 machines.
So does every school have a backpack?
Every
display?
school, that we purchase one backpack sprayer per custodian.
Right.
So
Every school does have one.
every custodian in the district has a backpack sprayer, along with at least 1 to 2 handhelds per site. And plus, we purchased additional backpacks for athletics, buses,
Cafeteria.
and cafeteria. So there's not a shortage of backpack machines in our district.
And it does work. I was speaking with one of the national dealers yesterday in regards to it, and he echoed the same thing you did, Mr. Bobby, in regards to they do it double.
Is that used broadly every day, or is it more attention paid to, say, a classroom where there's been a positive case, or how does that work?
Our expectation is, for classrooms, custodians are spraying those down daily with the backpack sprayer. Buses are sprayed twice a day, after morning route and after afternoon route. Jason, you may want, I'm not sure about the athletic facilities when those are being sprayed down, but yes, the expectation
Spray
is.
down at the end of every time they use whatever, whether it be the field house, the gym, whatever.
And so we instead of deploying the 360 machine, if we have a positive, then the custodian is to spray that room twice. Again, which will provide us the same benefits, if not more benefits than the Clorox 360.
And I would add for the bus, we added 5 minutes additional time so that they could spray. So there's never an excuse and a reason not to do that. Some of them pool all that together, Bobby, give it to one person.
That's right.
But we're not asking them to assume that additional duty without paying them. So we added 5 additional minutes.
Right?
That's great. I've got a question. Does all the materials and supplies, does this cover playground equipment under this?
Up until this point, schools were responsible for their own playground equipment, but going back to our ESSER funds, we did budget Wendy, is it 3.5 million? We do have money budgeted in ESSER so that every elementary school will get a new playground,
It's 3 million.
3 million. So we are starting that process as well. So
Every elementary school will get a new playground. Wow.
Yeah. And Robert, help us out. We are still disinfecting the playgrounds after use and
Yes, absolutely, yes, sir. Yeah, that's part of the requirements, yes, sir.
Okay. Any further comments, questions on 6,500? Not? All right, second, all in favor, say aye. We're getting close to the end here, folks. 510, organization of equipment, materials and supplies.
I didn't have any concerns when I read it.
I didn't have any notations there myself, 6510. I like what's highlighted there in yellow. Okay, second, all in favor say aye. Aye, those opposed no.
And I want to add to that, the warehouse that we're maintaining, any computer devices that we order in the future, while we may have the individual school names on that order, the address, it goes to the warehouse, it is processed in at the warehouse, and from the warehouse, it is delivered. We'll have training this week on one-to-one, so those devices are registered immediately. And that saves all that time in the building of trying to register those devices. So the warehouse does include, we put in a new storage space for computer hardware.
Right.
And I think this question is for you. After the equipment has been stored for so long, we avail that equipment to an auction service, or at least some of it.
The electronic equipment, no. We have started through recycling all the electronic equipment. And the company that we use is on state contract, so everything when they do the pickup, once we get a load, I contact them. They come out and then recycle the equipment, shred it basically, and then they pay us so much per pound of the materials or per device. It's a minimal charge, income that we get. But it's so much better than sitting there storing it for a year, waiting for a public auction, because 99.9% of the time, all they wanted to buy was the table it sat on. They would dump the stuff on the floor, walk out, we still have to deal with it. This way, we keep space open and keep product out of the way.
But some items that still have some usefulness, don't we use like Meekins auction?
Or different, well, we have in the past, yes. We've either took it to his site or they have come to our site. Other items like desk, furniture, equipment, bars, tools, lawnmowers, buses.
For the technology, we dealt with somebody on state contract because of the information that could have been with them, and they shredded it.
Right, we did have an issue in the past with that, and this way they also, our computer techs, they wipe the devices clean, but this company also uses the Department of Defense guidelines on cleaning equipment as well, and that we get a certificate of recycling from them with each serial number tied to each machine and what was done.
Right.
Now, for some of those companies, for instance, Apple, part of that negotiation is the buyback. So
On those leases, yeah,
these are direct
yeah,
purchase.
yes.
The conversation Friday on the direct purchase, that we can still negotiate that buyback through Apple. So there's several options, and that will be a little bit higher price than,
Yes, on the Apple products, yes, this is mainly for the non-Apple.
Other, yeah,
that's correct.
yeah. Okay, any other questions, comments on 6510?
Approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second, all in favor, say aye. 6520. It ties in with 6510. And I think we just kind of covered that informally in the conversation we just had.
Approval, Mr. Chairman.
All right, second, all in favor, say aye. Motion passes. 6521, personal use of equipment, materials, and supplies.
I think I discussed that some earlier. Approval, Mr. Chairman.
And I like that about not being called out of the classroom, except personal call. Any questions, comments? We've got a motion. Second, all in favor, say aye. Those opposed, no. 6522, use of materials and supplies by non-school groups.
I brought that up earlier. That's the one I told them to look at, but it's not.
The highlight is the use is not for financial gain. I guess I didn't read this very close. Is there a reasonable rental charge that's available for that kind of use? Are the schools authorized to get any financial remuneration from this?
Well, if we're using the cafeteria, we have to have custodians there, so there's a small amount. But if it's for profit, I'm not sure we even lease them.
Okay,
If it's a true community function, then we don't charge. But if it's for, because I think you increase your liability, they're charging to get in, something happens, you can't sign your way out of that liability. And so we stay away from, if it's not a true community use, we say no. Well, I have said something.
well, and hard to say, I hate to bring this in, but it needs to be brought in. Not every event for for financial gain is appropriate. I'll just put it that way.
I agree.
That's correct.
And there is a little,
That covers a broad spectrum of stuff, but,
and I'll say there is a little pamphlet that we give when they want to rent the facilities that says how much you can charge. And I was trying to find one, just then I couldn't find one, but Hugh might remember this off the top of his head, but it was like $600 for the gym, so much money for the cafeteria. If somebody wanted 500 for the cafeteria, but that also said if they decided to charge to get in, then we could actually go back and double it. But it had everything in there for what you could charge. The only thing it didn't have was if somebody wanted to rent the football field or the baseball field, it said it was up to the principal and athletic director.
The difference where we couldn't get the board to say, agree with the double for it.
and I read something in a previous policy manual, about, waiving, lawsuits and things like that as a result of, injury incurred.
Yeah, we have a waiver of liability. I found one of the things here, but we do have a waiver of liability form they got to do. And it was basically by elementary, by junior high, by senior high. Auditorium was 800, classroom was 100, gym was 600, cafeteria with kitchen was 600, cafeteria without kitchen was 500. And it was based on 4 hours. And then anything over 4 was $50 more. And then it says on there, it says, in addition to above rates, groups that collect money either by pre-ticket sales, door admission, or donation will be charged double the rental rate. And all that's in the little handout they give us when they rent facilities, that we give when they rent facilities.
I think the costs need to be uniform across our district.
Well, that's what I was just gonna ask Dr. Williamson. That is what he just said. Is that applicable everywhere, Dr. Williamson?
Yeah.
We had it one uniform at one time.
Okay.
Yeah, this was approved from the board in what, 2004? No, updated 2017 is what it's got on here.
Okay. Thank you for that, Jay. All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, move approval 6522, second, all in favor say aye. Motion carried. 6523, vehicle use. Some questions have arisen in some informal discussions that I've overheard about school vehicle with public schools of Robeson County displayed on it, being seen at places other than school or a school or in, all the facts are not known. Just because a vehicle is seen at X, Y, and Z, doesn't mean that that person driving that vehicle is not in compliance. And I think the policy does allow for that. I'm not sure exactly where.
I think we covered it pretty good the other year, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I move approval for it, unless there's other questions or concerns.
I think it does cover it well, I think, the proposed policy. Anybody have any other comment?
May I ask a question is to you, I know the School Boards Association provides some coverage,
It's very limited.
right, and so you have taken a look, you and Everett, for us, is there a need for additional coverage to safeguard us against?
Yes, because what the school board does offer is, it's only above and beyond what's not reimbursable back to us either through the state information technology department, which they don't provide anything. It only goes up like 7,500,000 if I'm off the top of my head. Columbus County got hit with $1 million, you know, so it wouldn't even have touched that down there. So yes, we have been in contact with the School Board Association did give us a recommendation who they use or recommend out. And, Mr. Teal has found another company, so we are comparing the two. But what we found out, I think it was Thursday on the conference call, what they do is they go out, farm it out. And so both companies will be pulling from the same resources, so we'll just pick one, fill out the application and go from there. But we do seem to think it may be something that we need to seriously look at.
Are all of our school issue computers, loaded with malware detection?
I'm assuming.
Yes,
Okay.
everything we got has a virus, is a virus scan that it runs.
Okay.
We're gonna be covering the district with that, Superintendent.
Yes.
Move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Those no. All right, 6530. Resource conservation. You has already touched on some of that for us with the way that, our computers and software disposal practices.
I didn't have any concerns when I looked at it, because I had already asked a question. I look at my stuff and then ask questions earlier. I don't have any concerns.
Okay.
Move for approval?
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. 6540. Hazardous materials.
And it, so I move for approval of it.
Yeah, and again, I think it addresses what needs to be said. Succinct manner. So is there a motion for approval?
I did.
Second, all in favor, say aye. Those opposed, noes. Yes, to close to the end, 6550, vandalism. And I'm noting the last sentence in that, policies on student behavior apply, so we would need to cross-reference to 9220. Would that address, like consequences for vandalism? I haven't looked at that, at 9220 to see.
Have any other concerns, Mr. Superintendent?
No.
I did.
All right. Is there a motion?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second, all in favor, say aye. Disposal of surplus property. Again, here are some blanks. Can you give us any input on those blanks under section A?
Now, as far as property goes, personal property, we were referring to equipment. too. Because wouldn't that be real property if we're talking about land?
Best superintendent designee to dispose of personal property worth less than blank for a single item or a group of similar items.
I'm taking it as like equipment. Is that,
That's the way I read it, yeah.
okay? As whatever the pleasure is. I mean, we've pretty much got rid of everything.
We list that surplus property on, is it the government website, what is that?
We've never done that. Kind of like to, but we've never done that.
Bobby, let's move, because then it's an automatic upgrade and date of surplus equipment, and we'll probably get better.
Oh, yeah.
That's,
We typically have held everything for a public auction instead.
Don't make us more money, let's move.
Yeah, that would, we actually get more money on a public auction, right?
Yeah, you'll probably get more money off the internet, like Dr. Williamson was saying here, govdeals.com, I believe it is, because that's out there everywhere.
Everywhere.
Okay, and that kind of brings us to the paragraph, the property worth X dollars to X dollars. Superintendent shall determine and recommend the Board of Education whether or not items or groups of similar items are unnecessary or desirable for school purposes. And you've already got a process established that already, right?
Right.
Right. I've never seen anything really go above equipment wise more than about $5,000 or $6,000. And that was typically like a small tractor or something that was
so the-
considered antique.
So the 30,000.
Yes.
Okay, any further comments or questions?
So Hugh, what about that second paragraph there?
That's what I was just talking about.
Got the two blanks?
Yeah.
But it,
Same figure if you like.
What's the dollar amount that designates something as equipment or property? What's that dollar amount that we put on? What am I trying to say?
You talking about when we purchase equipment?
And so that we tag it, that it's designated as equipment.
Oh, it's $500 or more.
So let's say 500 to 30,000.
it actually says on the correlation table, it says if the board delegates authority to superintendent up to 30,000 in the first paragraph, the second paragraph should be deleted.
It's always been up to 30,000.
You see what I'm saying, on page 13, Hugh? Up underneath the bold thing?
Delete that paragraph.
Come on.
But if we tag it with fixed asset, and that's $500, right?
If we tag it,
That's 500. So let's say 500 to 30,000.
okay.
Blank paragraph. Amount to 30,000, up to 30,000. Okay. The appropriate amount beginning is 500.
That's right.
Okay. Okay. Any further comments or questions on 6560? Hearing none.
Who approved,
Motion.
Chairman?
Okay, second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you, we stand adjourned.